Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking to you about ADHD medication, a couple of different types of medication that I tried, what didn't work, what did work. This video is for anyone who is contemplating going down the medication route, and I'll give you a little bit of insight into how that may pan out for you. I was always very anti-medication. I always thought that medication was, naively, I thought medication was a bit of a conspiracy theory. I thought that it was just a way for Big Pharma to get your money. It was only when I got to a point where my ADHD was really exhausting me and I kind of tried all avenues. I tried the exercise route, I tried the healthy eating route, I tried the positive thinking route, self-help books, self-help. I had reached a point in my life where nothing was helping. Since then, I've learned new strategies, and maybe one day I'll do a video on non-medication ways of alleviating your ADHD symptoms. Let's put it this way, I was psychologically drained from my ADHD. I couldn't get anything done. Even for things that I was passionate about, I couldn't really do anything. It was exhausting. Relationships were failing, jobs I either wasn't going to or I was fucking up. It continued to heighten my anxiety and feeling bad about myself. All the classic symptoms that you may already know or have being ADHDers or fellow human being. So at 29, I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna try this medication business. Living on the Costa del Sol, it wasn't too difficult to find someone that knew someone who knew someone. And I was put in touch with a psychiatrist who, after half an hour of speaking with, gave me my diagnosis and the medication that I was after, ADHD medication. This medication was called Elvanse. That's what it is called in Spain. I'll leave here what it's called in England. So I took my dosage of 50 milligrams of Elvanse day one, first thing in the morning. It was a slow releasing Elvanse apparently, so that means it will last for approximately 12 hours. How did it feel? What was it like? Well, I'll tell you what, I could fucking concentrate. I was on the computer and I was really digging deep into my photography business that I was doing at the time, and if there was something that I came across which I didn't understand, I would go straight onto the world of Google and I would research it and I would go and study essentially, which I had never really done before because of lack of motivation and concentration. The problem was I felt very much like I wasn't in my own body. So in the office that I was sharing a space with, people would come to me and talk to me like normal, but I was unable to talk to them in that moment. I remember looking at them and feeling a little bit like tunnel vision, just not really being able to be very coherent, put a string a sentence together. It was really difficult to concentrate on being me, I guess is how it felt. Ultimately, I didn't feel myself. This made me feel quite paranoid. I remember a bunch of other stuff happening that day, but long story short is I didn't feel myself and I felt high. I felt really quite off my tit, which just increased the anxiety even more because it wasn't a great feeling. It was like cheap speed, which essentially I guess it is. So then I spoke to this dodgy psychiatrist and he explained that the dosage was too high. Thanks for advising me on that dosage. I then continued to try taking various levels of dosages in the hopes that I would find one that worked for me, and I just kept getting anxious. Even on tiny dosages, I got anxious. That was my experience with Elvanse. That pretty much put me off the medication route, and especially considering every time I had to change a dose, I had to meet this dodgy psychiatrist dude, and he was costing me €100 a pop, so it just put me right off. And as you know, ADHD it doesn't take much to put us off, even when it is your own fucking mental health. Fucking years go on, I leave the Costa del Sol, I move to Barcelona. ADHD is still causing some issues, that and alcohol, not a great combination. My ADHD would continue to be a pain in my ADHD arse. I then met my now partner Briggy, and things in Spain weren't really working out for us. We moved to England in part so I could get my ADHD re-diagnosed for the third time in my life in order to do the proper route of getting medicated and finding a medication that works for me. At this point, I'd already done quite a bit of research and I'd heard of a multitude of options, some of which I wanted to try. So we move to Brighton, go to my GP, a 1.5 year waiting list. Great, fuck it, we're here, let's do it. And so the wait begins, 1.5 years before I could see a physician to get diagnosed. 1 year and 5 months go by, and I get an email saying that I now have to wait an extra 6 months. So I kicked off and quickly got my appointment as planned the month after. So I meet the physician, we have like an hour chat, did some bullshit surgery survey, had a chat about my fucking life. All the classic questions like what were you like at school, jobs, relationships, drug abuse, been in trouble with the police, loads of classic ADHD questions which I'm sure you're familiar with. And if not, you can do loads of them online, man. They're the same as you get in the fucking NHS. The same that I had anyway. You do a bunch of tests, you'll be pretty certain if you've got ADHD or not. Disclaimer, I am, who the fuck am I to say this? I get my diagnosis and she quickly fills out a prescription for the medication called, I can't fucking remember. That's no good, is it? Okay, so it's called a methylphenidate. It's an amphetamine, first-line treatment for ADHD. I've got a bit of a theory on this medication. It has a high success rate, apparently. I think that the reason it's got such a high success rate is because it is the first-line medication that they give people. When I tried it, I could quite easily do chores around the house. I could quite easily concentrate on mundane, boring things. I had an elevated mood. I was quite happy and confident and mildly euphoric. I remember walking the dog and feeling quite chipper and thinking, wow, this is great. It did remind me a little bit of taking MDMA. It definitely didn't feel like it was me. Granted, I hear that if you continue to take the medication for an extended period of time, things level out and become a lot more normal. That feeling becomes your reality a bit more and you adjust, right? There's definitely an adjustment period when taking medication. I wasn't that hot on it. I didn't like it that much. I didn't want to feel euphoric. I just wanted to be able to get on with shit. I tried lowering the dose and I still got the same effects. It was just it felt very strong for me, and I didn't like the stimulant side effects, so your appetite's completely suppressed. When the stimulant wears off, you crash. There's definitely more of a roller coaster ride with stimulant medication. End of the evening, I would crash, felt shit, and then the next morning you pop your pill and then you're buzzing again. I did feel a bit like I was on drugs. I just wanted to alleviate the ADHD symptoms, like that was it. I didn't want anything additional to that. So I went back to my physician and I had heard of non-stimulant medication, although I hadn't been spoken to about it. And in particular, I'd heard of antamoxetine, also known as Straterra. Straterra has apparently a 60% success rate with people. A lot of people struggle with the medication. I think a lot of people stop taking the medication because of the initial side effects that you have. I'd done more research and subsequently found out that once you build a tolerance to the medication, or once you've taken the medication for a certain amount of time, these initial side effects subdue. Fucking let's go for it. And I did. And so being very sensitive to medication, I was quite weary, and this medication it kind of felt like my last resort. Like, I'd tried 2 stimulants before, didn't like it. I was now trying a non-stimulant. I was kind of putting all my eggs in this ADHD basket. Fucking nightmare, scrambled egg. Off I went. Started on 40 milligrams of antamoxetine, and I remember within 3-4 hours feeling very nauseous and having to run to the toilet thinking I was going to puke. I didn't puke. That happened 2 or 3 times on the first day. I remember it thinking, Jesus Christ, here we go. It was a bit like, you know, when you're seasick, it was that feeling, you know, where you feel sick in your head, that horrible, like, whitey kind of feeling, you know, when you... And then a strange side effect was later on in the afternoon, after about 6-7 hours, I would feel extremely tired. And like the kind of tired, you know, when you're a kid in the back of the car and you just can't stay awake, like that. Okay, so I'd carry on to take 40 milligrams, and they say that you need to take it for 6 months before you truly feel the effects. But after a few days, I already could feel that something was working. Now, it's important that I make this clear. Stimulant medication you take for the day, right? So you pop your pill, whether it's short releasing or long releasing, it's either going to be for 3 or 6 hours that it works. And then sometimes you have a little top up in the evening, like a mini dose, a very fast releasing stimulant. I think, I'm pretty sure. Whereas Straterra stays in your system. So it has to build up in your system, and it's a 24-hour thing. So ultimately, if you accidentally miss a pill, it's not going to make a huge difference. although you can definitely tell. You don't feel any different. This is one of the beautiful things about Straterra for me, is that other than the nausea that I got probably for about a week and falling very deeply tired in the afternoon, which happened for a couple of weeks, other than that, you feel completely the same. Nothing's different, but suddenly you've got this ability to do boring shit. You know when you've got to do something and you really don't want to do it, and the fuck it is just so loud, you're like, fuck it, like I can't. And you almost physically can't. This would push away the fuck it, and it was just like, oh yeah, go on then. That's the best way that I can describe it. Straterra helped you go on then. You weren't enthusiastic about it, but you could just do it. There was one other side effect, which lasted for a long time, and I'll tell you what that was in a bit. But first, so that was on 40 milligrams, and then I was doing okay on 40 milligrams, but I definitely could feel that there was room for improvement. And so I spoke to my physician, and then we bumped it up to 60, and then I wanted a little bit more, and I am now on 80 milligrams. Every time I bumped up the dosage, I would feel the nausea again until I readjusted. So now I've been on Straterra for a year. I take 40 milligrams in the morning and 40 in the evening. I don't get tired in the afternoon, not that really heavy feeling. I should tell you the main side effect that I did experience, which was really shitty, was insomnia. So for a good, I would say 6 months, every night I would struggle to sleep. And I don't mean falling asleep. Falling asleep was easy. Funnily enough, that was what I struggled with in the past, but I would fall asleep quite quickly. The problem was around 1, 2 o'clock, I would wake up and it was like, pow! It was a strange feeling because I'd be awake in my brain, but I could tell my body was tired. And so you've got that kind of like aching to go to sleep, but your brain is just not having any of it. It's just not, you are staying awake. And it doesn't matter how hard you try, there's just no way around it. And I've struggled with sleep in the past, but not like this. This was really different. It was like good old fucking classic textbook insomnia. But the positives from the medication outweighed the negatives, and I said this to my physician as well. I was like, I haven't slept properly in months and months and months, and it was still worth it. Granted, me and my partner Briggy were raising a baby at the time anyway, so you know, what the fuck is sleep anyway at this point? But the benefits just vastly outweighed the negative. I was able to concentrate much more than before. I was much more enthusiastic, and I would never have this like doom feeling of losing all motivation and interest for stuff that I would initially be interested in doing. What else can I say about Straterra? The dosage of Straterra, I would definitely advise, like if you're feeling like you want to go slow but steady to find the right dosage and you're contemplating taking Straterra, start low, man. Like start on 20, 40 milligrams. Tell your physician that you're sensitive to medication. Like a lot of the time I hear and see people who have been told what dosage they have to take, but you've got a lot more say in it than they will let on. If they suggest that you go on 80 milligrams, but you want to go on 40, like they can't make you take more. The only issue you might come across is if you're on a certain dosage and you want to go up, depending on your weight, they will also check your heart rate and your blood pressure because they've basically got numbers to abide by, and so if your heart rate, blood pressure is too high and you want to go up in dosage, they won't let you. This is why I am quitting coffee in attempts so I can up my dosage to 90 milligrams. I just want that little extra. It's a tricky one, isn't it, with medication, because you never really, you're looking for the sweet spot all the time, the bit that really just works for you, and sometimes there's no real exact dosage. Maybe for some people, maybe you'll never find the perfect thing. It's just finding the best. I know some people that take stimulant medication and they are just absolutely sweet on it. Like they rate it really highly. It doesn't change the person that they are. They feel great. They're very productive. They don't crash. They just crack on with it. And everyone's journey is individual, isn't it? And you've just got to figure out what works for you. The insomnia did eventually stop. I didn't change anything in particular, really. I didn't change diet, exercise, caffeine, none of that bullshit. It just stopped. I think my system just started allowing the medication to do its thing without side effects. In my experience, and it's happened 3 times now, once really bad, is where I have run out of medication or I've forgotten to take my medication for 1 to 2 days. That second day, especially without my medication, I felt rage. You know how on ADHD you can be quite erratic and short-tempered and often have outbursts of anger? I would get this really quickly, but inside, so I'd get really angry over the smallest things. And it was quite irrational anger. It was like all the old bad, I'm not sure, it was just, I just got very angry very quick. And it was like some of the negatives of my ADHD came back with force. And then like 8 hours after that, it would subside again and it would just be classic ADHD. It was very strange. If you're going on antamoxetine, you really have to take your fucking pills. Like you can't skip a day. It's not like with stimulants. Like if you want to take the weekend off your stimulants, which a lot of people do, you take the weekend off without your stimulant and that's fine. And there's no issue there. But with antamoxetine, you need to take it every day. You can't fuck about with it because I think it becomes part of your physiology with antamoxetine. It needs to be present and you take it away quickly and your brain doesn't like it, which is really something to think about. It's important. I hope that has given you some insight on stimulant and non-stimulant medication. It's a tricky one, that. Well, I'm sure that's why you're here, but definitely keep looking at videos, keep watching other people's experiences on medication. That's how I found out about Straterra. It was this one young lady on YouTube talking about a Straterra experience and I was like, that's what I want. I want that. To me, it sounded like the fucking answer. It just made sense to me. But God knows I fucking tried the alternatives first. The alternatives that they'll probably try and give you first. Yeah, if you don't want to try stimulants, you can always tell them you don't want to. You want to find another route. You've just waited 1.5 to 2 years, in some places 3 years before you get your diagnosis. Fucking hell, you can say like, right, I want to try antamoxetine first. Wanted to do this video just to kind of get my little story on the fucker out there because it's valuable, just as everyone else's story is. I think the more we share these things, the better, and the more informed people can be. Because I think you can't just take things for face value from the physicians, and Google's great, but the more information we can put into that fucker, the better. If you want to watch a video which kind of talks about some of the issues I had while being very ADHD-y, you can check out this video. It's all about my anger issues and one of the non-medication coping strategies in which to alleviate your anger. See you later.